Now this is one of my favorite poems. Carol Ann Davis's Tips from My Father. "Come out here," he'd call from the yard. "I want to show you Mars." I'd stand just in front of him, follow his finger up to the sky, the house spinning away from us till nothing mattered but my father's hand, and his 100 planets, and his voice a pause before he found it. Then, there it is. And maybe I saw it. This is how he taught me, in case I was ever lost at sea or in the desert, how to navigate my way back home. With each new season, a new sky to learn. A serious business, like reading a map. "Look here," he'd say, "this is something you might need." Marvelous poem. Tips from my father. Always a good thing. I hope all of you have something you learned, many things you learned from your father that you use frequently. He calls his daughter out. He shows her Mars. And it's this very special moment before we even get to the core here. The house is spinning away from them. When she's standing in front of her father, looking up at his hand pointing toward the sky, they're in their own little sort of bubble, their own little world, apart from the house and everyone in the house. And it's very, very warm and has this very special feeling. He says, "There it is." And she says, maybe she saw it. And this is what he taught her, in case she was ever lost at sea or in the desert. Now, people, it's highly unlikely this poem was written in 1993 or in 2020 with GPS, that any of us are ever going to be lost at sea or in the desert, and we're going to need to look to the sky and find our way out. It could happen, highly unlikely. With each new season, a new sky to learn. Look here, he'd say, this is something you might need. She's never going to need this. However, for the rest of her life, every time she looks at the night sky, she's going to think of her father. She's going to feel at home with her father trying to teach her about the planets and the stars. And she will find her way home in her heart. Wherever she is, she can look at the sky and she will be home. It doesn't physically matter whether she uses them to get physically home. Her heart comes home because she always thinks of her dad who is trying to teach her things. And that is what home is. And this poem always reminds me of a particular evening in 1986. It was the last time Halley's Comet came around. It comes around, I think, every 74 years. And my father and I were watching the evening news, and the meteorologist said, "Good night around here to go out and we're going to see Halley's Comet." So Dad and I waited till it was dark. We went outside. I remember it like it was yesterday. We stood in the backyard looking up to the north. We were looking. And I said, "Is that it?" And Dad said, "It might as well be." And what I learned there was that if there are two ways to view something, you might as well see what you want to see when there's no harm done anyway. So whenever I hear anything about Halley's Comet, or at night when I look up to the sky, I think of the night he taught me that when there are two ways to see things, if there's no harm to be done in it, you can see it the way you want to see it. So this poem is very positive. It's a special poem to me. And of course, it's one of the few poems we've studied this semester that is positive and warm, and one I really hope you all remember.